Hello and welcome to Tuesday Newsday, your number one resource for the entire week's worth of VR news. What's up, everybody? I hope you didn't mind. Last week, I skipped Tuesday Newsday due to a pretty light week of VR news, and I worked on a bunch of other videos that you should be seeing soon, like an HP Reverb G2 Omnicept Edition video and a Pico Neo 3 Virtually Odd, and that should be coming out soon. But we've got pretty much 2 weeks of VR news to catch up on, and a lot of really interesting stuff happened, and a lot of the big players are involved. Valve, Oculus, Sony, and PSVR. We've got a lot to cover, so let's just get right into the news. Last week, I posted a community update with this picture, and I figured I should explain at least a little bit because it's really interesting and actually ties in with the PlayStation VR news this week. This is Facebook Reality Labs' prototype for what they call reverse pass-through. Essentially, it's a display on the outside of the headset that allows spectators to see a VR user's eye region, and it's actually using a glasses-free 3D display as well. Now, I should stress that as of now, this will not be coming to any consumer headset from Oculus or Facebook anytime soon, if ever, that is. But it is an interesting prototype and experiment nonetheless, designed to connect VR users with people around them a little better, as VR can be isolating if you're in a group environment. And this allows you to sort of maintain eye contact with people outside, even with a VR headset on. Now, personally, this is a little creepy, and I would rather just pull the headset up onto my forehead to talk to people IRL, but it's still an interesting experiment. What I find even more interesting is that Facebook Reality Labs are far from the first to have experimented with displays on the outside of VR headsets to do the exact same, to bring VR users and spectators closer together. And there's a ton of new PlayStation VR news this week that is pretty awesome whether you're interested in console VR or not. Just the specs that are laid out for this new headset that have been alluded to for the past year and a half are shaping out to be really insane. Anyways, back on this external display, but from Sony this time. VR Focus pointed out that back in 2019, Sony patented an external display for VR headsets that can either show what the player is seeing, so sort of like casting a Quest 2's view to a TV, which is something I already use pretty often, but it's also capable of this exact functionality Facebook Reality Labs showed off, to show a sort of reverse pass-through showing the face and emotions of the user to everyone around them. This patent was just published this month, so I wouldn't expect it on any PlayStation VR or PSVR 2, although rumor has it, the new PSVR won't even be called a PlayStation VR 2. But regardless of name, it is shaping up to be an actually insane headset. Sorry for the buzzword, but we actually have some of the information regarding its details. A channel, PSVR Without Parole, claimed to have reported some confirmed information from a private developers conference for PSVR and PS5. And just about every spec and direction of the next PSVR, codenamed NGVR or Next Generation VR, was detailed. I should mention, this isn't exactly concrete information, but Upload VR have said that they independently verified everything here and it checks out with them. So here's the specs of Sony's next headset, supposedly. A pretty great resolution of 2000 by 2040 per eye, which is up there with any flagship PC VR headset right now. An FOV of 110 degrees, which is pretty standard, but a notable improvement over the last model by about 10 degrees. Eye tracking with foveated rendering capability, inside-out tracking, a USB-C tether to the PS5, so possibly still wired, HMD mounted haptics, so the actual headset vibrates, and will include finger-tracked controllers with capacitive sensors for the ring finger and thumb, as well as the really awesome triggers from PS5 that offer force feedback, which are honestly the best triggers I have ever used on any controller ever and would be a welcomed addition to VR. I mean, you could actually feel resistance of a gun's trigger, which just makes sense in VR. The primary direction Sony wants to focus on is these hybrid-style AAA games like No Man's Sky, a full flat-screen release that also has great VR capabilities. According to all of these sources, holiday 2022 is when we can expect to see NGVR from Sony actually release. And you know what? I'll be right there covering it whenever it does. Pretty pumped for this, actually. I was never much of a PSVR user because I had PC VR at the time, time, but if Sony does release this headset with a good game catalog, I could see the PSVR 2, or whatever it's going to be called, really be a great near PC VR quality VR experience. But speaking of near PC VR experiences, Valve has had some very interesting things this past week regarding VR, and this has turned into one of my most anticipated VR projects out there. Let me just lay it out for you. So we have likely all heard of the Steam Deck. It's Valve's new handheld PC running Linux, packed with a 4-core 8-thread Zen 2 CPU and RDNA 2 GPU. Launching later this year at a starting price of $400. Advertised to run any and all PC games, it makes sense. The display being used on the Steam Deck is a 60Hz 720p panel, which makes running just about any game with the specs it has not too much of a problem. Now, months ago, leaks and rumors all pointed to something similar to this, a Nintendo Switch form-factored mobile gaming machine. But along with all of those leaks were what felt like countless VR-related patents from Valve. And for the past year and a half, Valve has been almost patent crazy regarding VR. I reported a few months ago, patents showed up regarding a Valve Index looking headset with an add-on piece that within the patent showed it contained a standalone compute unit. In addition, other headset designs were shown off, and Valve even patented a split rendering technique that allows rendering to take place on a PC and on a headset's compute unit. And the second Steam Deck was announced, officially, everything kinda came clear. This same architecture, or at least a similar one, could very easily be adapted to a VR headset, and this could be something similar to the compute unit that I've been talking about for months. Well, two things right off the bat. Yes, it is 100% confirmed Steam Deck has the capability to run a VR headset. But by capability, I mean just that. It's possible. The Steam Deck is just a PC in a tiny form factor running Linux. I'm not saying right now it can run a VR headset well, because I don't have one and I haven't tested one for myself, and there's no guarantee that software-wise there's really easy support. But just being that it is a PC, it is capable of it. Now, will it be good VR? We'll have to see. The hardware on the Steam Deck is pretty impressive for the price and form factor, but if you're expecting to just be able to play Boneworks on a Quest 2 on launch day at 90 FPS while plugged into a Steam Deck, I don't think this hardware is exactly capable of that, unless you massively cut down the render resolution. Gabe Newell has alluded to VR usage with the Steam Deck, and that's exciting, but there's something way bigger at play here. Valve has practically confirmed that they are working on a standalone headset, or at the very least an all-in-one VR headset similar in hardware to the Steam Deck. In a very recent interview with The Verge asked a question, and this question was exactly the one on all of our minds. What about putting this hardware into a headset? And here goes. Quote, "But Coomer did light up when I suggested maybe we could see the Steam Deck's custom APU in a standalone VR headset, like the Oculus Quest. He said he loved the question and said, we're not ready to say anything about it, but it would run well in that environment, with the TDP necessary. It's very relevant to us and our future plans," he said, end quote. And there you go. Months of patents pointing to exactly this. This isn't direct confirmation that some x86 standalone VR headset will come from Valve, but about 10 patents of an x86 Linux-based standalone VR headset, and Greg Coomer from Valve himself saying that this x86 AMD Zen 2 and RDNA 2 Linux-based architecture is relevant to their future plans in VR, should speak for itself. This could mean that Valve is ready to step up to the plate and make an all-in-one standalone VR headset based on x86, and I see a lot of people complaining that this will be incapable of running most PC VR titles. And yeah, it would appear that way, especially if the resolution is anywhere close to what we see on most flagship headsets now. But we don't know the full story here, and we likely won't know until Valve actually announces something. The only thing I can say is big stuff is coming from Valve, and I can pretty confidently say that Valve will likely be getting into the standalone VR market within the next year. If you've been waiting for competition for the Quest 2, well, here you go. Possibly. Also, I should mention, some people have been railing Valve for using x86 over something like Qualcomm Snapdragon XR2 that's in the Quest 2 and just about all modern standalone headsets, but Valve sticking with x86 makes a lot of sense. If they do pull off some voodoo magic and get good-looking VR to run on something like the Steam Deck hardware, all of the VR games on Steam pretty much will run as well. And if they did go ARM-based, they'd be risking fragmenting all of Steam VR into x86 and ARM-based applications. So if they can pull it off, I'm rooting for them. But now it's time for a meme break! You know, I've always liked sim gaming. Like, back when I was a kid, I grabbed every monitor I could, even though they were different sizes and aspect ratios, but hey, for flight simulators or driving sims, it works pretty well. But nowadays, we have so much potential in VR to make sims just far more immersive, and I guess simulation-y. And now I look back at past me, and this holds very true.
What they need to mimic a fraction of our power.
And now, back to the news. The Oculus Quest 2 now accounts for 1 in 3 VR headsets on Steam, which is crazy to think about. Just a year and a half ago, there was no metric at all for a Quest 2, and now it holds 32% of all headsets used on PC. And all-in-one headsets like the Quest and Quest 2 holding nearly 40% of all headsets. I should also mention that Steam VR hardware surveys for July show that VR has somewhat jumped back in July to 2.07% of all users, or around 2.8 million users. This is coming off the heels of a pretty notable drop back in June where PC VR usage saw a steep decline, one of the first of its magnitude, dropping by nearly 1 million users. The numbers are back up, which is great, and this is likely due to a multitude of factors in June, from summer heat, people getting out more often, and other very difficult to account for factors. Steam VR still isn't at its all-time high of 2.31%, but VR usage is still looking healthy. Another healthy factor is VR's growth within the entertainment industry, now labeled as the fastest growing media segment in the world, outpacing cinema, streaming, gaming, music, literally everything. And that stays true through projections, estimated that by 2025, more than 70 million headsets will be in circulation, and is projected to be a multi-billion-dollar industry by that time as well. Mind you, these are estimates and this is growth, not size, so something like the gaming industry is still massive and far bigger than VR, but VR is growing at an exponential rate faster than everything around it. Kind of old news, but still relevant, Population 1 received a massive map update, and this is still my favorite VR FPS game right now, and it just got bigger with new skins and a giant castle added to the map. It's called the Kingdom Age event, and just from first-hand experience, it's really awesome. The Pop 1 devs actually gave me a few Steam and Quest keys to give away on my Twitch stream, so come on by if you don't already own the game for a chance to see it firsthand and possibly get the game for the grand old price of, well, free. And I am making a commitment to bring Question of the Week back as well as Meme Break, so please throw your question down below so I can answer it in next week's Tuesday Newsday. Also, don't forget about that stream if you want a chance at Population 1. My Discord server is also a great place to get notifications for that and to meet some new cool VR people. I want to say thank you to all of my Patreon supporters, especially my Omegas like Very Evil Shadow, and I'm saying your name first now, Biz, Benji, Boobootsy, CBCJ79, Destroyer Biscuit, Dysfunctional Potat, Furtrap, Fusion Oak, HCG Randon, Henry B, It's Lumi, Jonathan, Lucid VR, Mud King, Ronzarelli, That Brock Guy, and the Omega Wolfster. I couldn't do any of this without you. Don't forget to like this video if you loved it, subscribe if you want more of this, and hit that freaking bell if you just can't live without it. Much love, Thrill out.